for happy right now. We have a happy warning. You, unfortunately, after hearing from Gerald Celente, may bring you down a bit, but a little dose of reality will do that. Gerald's head of the Trends Research Institute. We've been talking to him since 1995, and gosh darn it, if he's not right all the time. One of these times, I'd like him to be wrong, but it hasn't happened yet. Good morning, Gerald.
Oh, I've been wrong before.
Not much, not many times.
Thanks a lot.
But Gerald, is one of the things that I know that you're following in the Trends research in your journal is the financial news that's coming out these days. I just saw an article in the Wall Street Journal that some big international banks were changing the coding on some of the monies going to Iran, that they were funding in some terrorist organizations or charities tied to terrorism, and they got a slap on the wrist, $200-300. They're like, oops, we made a mistake. There's also now another investigation whether some of these companies are stuffing their accounting to raise the actual value of the stock market. It's tough for an investor right now. We know we're in trouble. We know that, we may hit a double-dip recession. I know you're predicting one. We know it's going to be flat for some time. We're trying to pick stocks, but we just can't even trust the financial information that they're giving us right now.
No, you really can't. They're cooking the books. They're not really marking up how much they've lost. They're the mark-to-market regulations whereby they have assets and they're marking them as though they're worth a lot more than they are. And people forgot this, and so they've inflated what the banking system looks like. And now, for example, they just had an agreement, an international agreement, whereby they're going to impose much stricter capital requirements on the banks. But here's the catch: we're going to give you, till 2019 to meet them. So it's really, the whole game is rigged, and the reality is that we the people are so far removed from the facts. They have these things called dark pools, high frequency trading. They're trading on fractions of a penny, and with all of these computer geeks running these programs, anybody to me that buys stock deserves what they get. They might as well go to Las Vegas and bet on blackjack or roulette or whatever, because that's what it is. And then when you look at what's happened to these companies, I mean, who owns these companies now? The private equity firms. And by the way, this is the great story that hasn't been told, Dan. Everybody blames, those little people with the subprime mortgages for causing the credit crisis. Not true. It was caused by all of the heavy leverage from these private equity firms that are building these huge commercial developments, buying up companies. It's not like 10 guys got together and put $1 billion down and bought a company for $10 billion. They put virtually nothing down, and the banks leveraged it. That's where this thing collapsed from. But they always blame the little people, just like they're doing in Europe. And they're bailing out the banks, and then the people take to the streets, and then the media twists it around and say, those people are so spoiled with their entitlements, and now they're taking to the streets in protest. They're taking to the streets in protest because the Europeans know the deal. The big banks never lose. They have to pay their losses.
Well, where are we at, you think, financially? I know you're predicting a double-dip recession. I'm reading Nouriel Roubini's book. I've read Panic by Richard Vigilante, and I forget the other gentleman's name. They own a hedge fund. They point to the same thing. What Roubini's talking about is you can pass all this regulation all you want. The basic fundamentals of the market are broken.
That's right, because the whole thing on credit. There's too much credit. There are too many people buying things that they can't afford. I've been reading a lot. I don't feel sorry. I have to say this. I do not feel sorry for all the people that have lost a lot. I feel sorry for the people that are the unfortunates through no fault of their own lost things. I have a great friend, he's a quadriplegic. He slipped on the ice, This is the kind of people that, I'm there for. But guess what? When I read these stories about people that, the guy was, like yesterday, the New York Times, well, he worked in Applebee's as a waiter, and they overextended because they bought a minivan in addition to their other car, so the wife could drive the 3 kids around. No, wait a minute. Back off over here. A lot of people have overspent, overborrowed, and put themselves into this position. And now we're bailing them out at every level. We have a food pantry over here where people come, they're having tough times. One guy lost his job as a bus driver. The woman's telling me, I give donations. And she said, every night he comes here with his wife and 3 children to eat. I said, why don't you give him food and let him cook it at home? What's going on over here? Every night they're coming there to eat. How about giving them the food? And you know what it is, Dan? There's this other thing going on. No, they don't want to do that because they want their gig to keep going and keep expanding. So with this whole country is coming into one of entitlement in a lot of levels. And it's a ripoff from the top, these big corporations stealing from us, down to the people that are ripping it off at the welfare level, or the people wanting to go on disability because they don't want to work anymore. And so this whole psychology is destroying this country.
Where are we as far as you've been predicting a double-dip recession, you're predicting maybe financial collapse. Do you have a timeline when you see this is going to hit?
Well, again, the timing is very difficult. For example, the scheme that the Europeans pulled out today with the by giving the banks another free ride. So they keep juicing money into the system in ways that we don't know about. But we're saying that we believe there's going to be ample evidence before the clock strikes 2011 that we're moving toward the greatest depression. We are not in a double-dip recession. We never got out of the first one. All they did was stimulate it a little bit. You read the words, and the words are very important. You read what President Obama, for example, said in right after he got elected in 2009. He promised to rebuild a nation. We're going to recover and be stronger than we were when we got into it. They always say that. And then you hear him last week, and he says, well, it didn't go as we hoped. What do you mean it didn't go as you hoped? You just, $13 trillion has been lent, spent, and guaranteed since you got into office. Oh, it didn't go as you hoped? And I'll tell you the other one, Dan, that nobody's talking about. And everybody's afraid as they talk about all this cutbacks and where it has to come from. And Obama himself. He said, we're going to hold spending, but we're not going to touch national security. We're draining our country's treasury by fighting these ongoing losing wars. Stop the wars. Bring the money back home. We're not winning in Afghanistan. Oh, military combat action has stopped in Iraq. Oh, yeah? Hey, how about those 2 dead guys that I just read about the other day? 2 dead Americans. There's no combat hasn't stopped. They're draining the treasury, and no one on the national scale will talk about, other than Ron Paul, stop the wars. Stop the wars, close these military bases, and rebuild America. If we do that, then we don't go into the greatest depression. But the way it's going now, Dan, they're robbing us at every end.
I mean, very interesting. I forget the gentleman's name. They call him the father of Reaganomics. What he said, I found this very interesting. Gerald, I forget the gentleman's name. I have it at home on my desk. I think it was Ronald Steichman. They call him the father of Reaganomics, but he had a proposal. Now, there's a guy who is, part of maybe you might call it the laissez-faire group, Reaganomics, supply-side economics. His proposal was to help turn the economy around, is to put a tax on corporations where the value of their product is made. He felt that if our companies, our corporations, were producing, adding the value overseas, he says we need to tax them heavy. We need to bring this manufacturing back home. And I thought, for a father of Reaganomics, that almost sounds like a progressive idea. But you've said it. I've not heard one candidate said how they are going to stimulate manufacturing and middle-class jobs in America.
No, they're not, because they're all part of the Republican Democratic mafia that sold out this country to overseas. Oh, by the way, Paul Craig Roberts, who was an assistant Treasury secretary under Reagan, is also now writing for the Trends Journal, and he is exactly of the mind of what you're saying, is that nothing changes until we start bringing manufacturing back to the United States. And it can be done. But they're not going to do it. This isn't free market. Isn't it something? All my life, I grew up learning how to hate those red Chinese. Remember that one? Remember the red terror? And all of a sudden, we still hate Cuba, but we're doing business with this totalitarian government, and we're giving them all our money. I mean, doesn't anybody see what's happening in front of our eyes? They're selling us out for the bottom line, and that's what this country's become. Oh, by the way, here's a Gerald Celente solution on how to balance the taxes and balance the budget in this country. We just saw this thing with the mosque and this other lunatic down in this nobody that the media made somebody, this guy Jones, that wanted to burn the Koran. Tax all the religions. Tax all the religions. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, said Jesus Christ. Let them all pay taxes. There is no separation of church and state now. The churches are getting a better deal. There are more different churches out there than auto dealerships in the United States. Everybody's making one up. And the other one, these non-profit organizations. That's another sham. Let everybody pay their taxes. If you give to a charitable organization, okay, let the individuals get a tax break, but let them all pay taxes. They use the water, they use the services, they use Homeland Security, they use defense, they use everything. Tax them. Tax them, and we'll see this thing turn around. And the religions out there aren't doing such a great job. They should be getting this free ride, particularly when you got a lunatic like this other guy. And that's an important story, by the way, Dan, the one in Florida with this guy Jones. The media made this guy. This would be a guy like in, 80 miles from Peoria over there that has 25 friends that wants to burn books. If the media didn't cover it, nobody would know about it. The media is inflaming hatred in this country. The same people, the same media that inflamed the hatred with the Iraq War, with Afghanistan, are now turning people against each other. This is something I wrote about in 1993, Crusades 2000, and they're pushing it forward.
What now? We need a quick answer, maybe 60 seconds or so. No one seems to be satisfied with the political offerings coming up. You see the Tea Party on the rise, but that's kind of more of a general third party with the possible collapse of the economy, the government being ineffective. As pessimistic as it is, I see kind of an awakening. I see kind of a positive thing coming out of all of this.
Oh, absolutely. We could have a rejuvenation of America. The old corrupt ways are showing themselves. They're so transparent they can't be hidden anymore. We can have a viable third party, so a party that's really for the people, not for the special interests. I get a kick out of these politicians. They get campaign contributions. Yeah, how about bribes and payoffs? So we can have, and again, we don't need to build anything new in this country. Rejuvenate what we have. The quality of the past in the building and the structures is a lot better than the junk they're putting up now. This country has all we need to keep moving forward if we put our resources into doing it rather than shipping them overseas and giving all the bigs the breaks.
All right, Gerald Celente, Trends Research Institute. If folks want to find out more about the Trends Journal, what do they do?
TrendsJournal.com, TrendsJournal.com. And Dan, we know people are having a difficult time out there. There's a discount request form, fill it out. We make the Trends Journal available to anyone that